William McCrea.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it is an honour and privilege to join with Right Honourable and Honourable members in this House to pay tribute to the service and the courage, bravery of our servicemen and women. I was delighted that whenever it came the DUP Opposition Day, allotted day, that we had the honour of being able to choose this motion before the House, support for UK armed forces and veterans. And I think the motion speaks for itself, and I think that those right honourable members have already spoken certainly find that this very much touches the nerve of the community, and I'm delighted that there certainly has been such support right across this House. It is true that those who join our armed forces realise that when they do join, they're not joining a Boy Scout club. They are joining the armed services. However, it is an occupation. Some join because they come from military background, they come from military families. Some join because they want the excitement of joining the armed forces. Others join because of unemployment, and therefore they find that there is no other means of employment. However, whatever the reason they join, I think it is right that we point out that they have given valiant service and great sacrifice, and this House is very proud of what they have done in the field of conflict and what they are doing at this present moment. And I do mention the gallant service of the Royal Irish at this present time, who are serving out in the theatre out there in Afghanistan. I will never forget my visit to Afghanistan and to Camp Bastion, and I certainly salute every one of our soldiers and also international team of soldiers that are working together, whether it be the United States or other country armed forces, that are working together to try and bring stability to that area and safety also to the world. And I certainly was greatly taken by not only the bravery of the soldiers themselves, but also I pay tribute to the doctors and nurses that are serving there, especially in the hospital. And I think the hospital is an example of what a hospital should be. It is absolutely brilliant, and they stabilise the soldiers who are injured, or some very critically injured. I remember the day that I arrived, the aircraft that I arrived in was turned immediately into a theatre, actually a hospital, to transfer soldiers back to Birmingham immediately for added treatment. And we do think today of the families of those who have lost their loved ones because of the conflict in Afghanistan and also previously in Iraq. But we also need to remember that many of the young men and women are returning from theatre with not only horrific bodily injuries, but also horrific mental injuries. And I can remember in the tragedy of Northern Ireland, I remember standing that night whenever a number of my then constituents in a different constituency were murdered in T-Ban. I remember walking amongst the dead and helping to lift up some of the living, getting them to the hospital as quickly as possible. And I never forget that scene. I remember standing in a personal capacity in a mortuary looking in the face of a young woman and young lad. Rather, I didn't see the young lad's face because it wasn't sufficient to view. The young lad, just a few bones that were left. And I never forget that scene. Therefore, I am sure that, Madam Deputy Speaker, many of these young men and women are coming back from the field of conflict with horrific memories, trying to deal with the trauma of that. And never let us forget that because they've come back and their bodies are intact, that does not mean that they themselves have not been touched by the field of conflict. And therefore, we do need to ensure that they are getting the best of treatment, and the trauma of their mental scars are being properly treated. And I was very encouraged by what the Secretary of State did say today. And I have to say, I genuinely do believe that the Secretary of State has given a serious commitment and has continued to give a serious. And I pay tribute to the previous Secretaries of State and the previous government, because I do believe that they did much for our armed forces. But this is a moving situation, and therefore we must continue to give them the best that we can give them. One final thing, because I realise that all members want to come in. Let us also remember that when they do return and have to move from the situation where they have been in the field of conflict, and then many of them into civilian life, there does need to be very great care in given, because many are facing unemployment. We are in days where there's increasing unemployment, and therefore let us be sensitive. And my honourable friend from Antrim North, I'm delighted that the Secretary of State is taking up that point, examining it very carefully as regards the provision and housing for returning soldiers and their families. Madam Speaker, it's been a privilege to be a part of this debate, and I trust that we will unanimously pass this resolution, and that we will see that our soldiers, servicemen and women, know that we are standing wholeheartedly behind them and thank them for what they're doing for us.